Hey guys, Skarm here. Recently I got a comment on one of my videos asking what my Warrior's talent build is. Up until recently, Warrior tanks have been spec'd into deep prot with shield slam, with a few points in the arms and fury tree.
Okay.
However, the meta has shifted in more hardcore guilds.
Look at his
where tanks need
rage,
to
man.
generate as much threat as possible.
Look at his
due to DPS
rage.
pushing their limits and doing as much damage as they can.
Okay.
To do this, tanks have been running a fury prot build, focused more on doing damage and generating threat, as opposed to maximizing mitigation.
Right.
In this video, I'll be going over the talent build in detail and explaining its strengths and weaknesses.
Okay.
Alright, so here we are in the talent calculator. Here I'm going to be just going over each talent one by one and explaining, kind of why they're good.
He's spamming heroic strike. It's
Arms tree, we don't get anything in arms
that.
tree for this build. Everything's in fury prot.
So you don't even get parry.
So starting at the fury tree, you get 5 points in cruelty for 5 critical strike. That's
Got it.
very useful.
That makes sense.
Booming
That just
Voice,
makes
not
sense.
really necessary. It just increases the. It's more of a PvP talent. It doesn't actually boost damage or anything. It just increases the duration and the range of battle and demo shout. Not
Obviously
very
cruelty.
useful in PvE.
Obviously cruelty.
Next, down the tree, we have improved demoralizing shout, which is something that, in my opinion, a Fear Warrior should get. Depending on the boss, the tank should be focused more on staying alive.
I'm gonna just skip through the talent section.
So
I think we can basically understand the talent section.
So if you want the improved version, you should have a.
Jess, did you guys want to watch the talent version or not? Or talent part or not?
Opinion.
Skip it.
The other talent,
we'll
Unbridled Wrath, that's very good.
Okay, we want to hear it.
Especially
All right,
since this build revolves around dual wielding.
Right. Okay, so this is Unbridled Wrath. It's really good for dual wield.
To generate an additional rage point whenever you deal damage to the weapon really adds up.
Right. Of course.
Next down the tree, we have the third tier. These talents
Blood
are
crates.
somewhat flexible. I do really like Piercing Howl. I think it's important
because it's good
for 5 mans and 20 mans.
It's a good item.
It's
a good talent.
Its uses sometimes.
It's a good ability.
So I think
it's good.
That I always get this talent personally. Technically, when tanking a boss, you don't use Piercing Howl.
Obviously makes sense.
But for just 1 point, I think it's a very useful move to have.
Of course.
Improved Cleave. Sounds good.
Shit ass ability.
See, you get 120%
Dog
bonus
shit
damage
ass
from Cleave.
ability.
However, what the bonus damage is what Cleave does. It does weapon damage plus, I believe, is 50
right
max
there.
rank.
Yep, there it is.
The 120% damage only applies to that 50.
So that's like
doesn't
what?
apply to the base weapon damage.
60 more damage.
Sounds like a really good talent until you read the fine print.
I think
and realize
so.
it's just the bonus damage. So you could get this, but
it's an improved piece of shit.
We have Blood Craze that when you get crit, you regenerate. It says 0 right here, but you actually
3%.
regenerate 3% of your health, your total health over 6 seconds.
Okay.
Which the more health you have, the more you'll regen.
Of
However,
course.
with the amount of
Naturally.
heals that should be on you if you're running this build in a guild that requires you to run this build for threat,
right?
I don't think Blood Craze is very useful. Personally, I think it's too minimal.
Okay.
But some people get it, some don't. You can get it if you want. I usually don't.
I guess, you know what? I probably won't get this. You know what? I'm not even going to get it. Fuck it. I'm going to go with this guy's spec. He's doing Nax, all right? I'm doing him
So, 4 points in improved battle shout. 20% increase attack power in your battle shout. It's, just more AP. It's nice. Next up, we have Enrage, which you definitely want. You'll get crit a lot more in this build from bosses, which sounds a little scary, but
yeah, it
really,
does.
It's usually nothing the healers that the healers can't handle.
You hear that, healers? You hear that? You better pay the fuck attention.
So dealing 25% of more damage from all your attacks is huge. It's very nice.
Okay.
Getting crits actually kind of want that. So that's a nice ability to have. Plus you need to get Flurry. So Enrage is mandatory. You have to get that.
Okay.
Death Wish, you might as well just skip down there and get that because obviously you want that. That's
very good
as well.
tanking ability.
That's another big
Reduces
reason
your
why this
armor
build
and resistance
works so well is because for 30 seconds you can have 20% more damage and be immune to fear in case
that's really good.
Your Berserker Rage is down or you're not in Berserker stance when fear goes off. Death Wish is handy for breaking fear.
Okay.
It does lower your armor and resistances by 20%, which is really not that much. It's definitely
that seems like a lot.
But
I'm gonna be honest, that seems like a lot.
So we need, as you can see, we need 4 more points to get down to Flurry. I like to put those in. I like to finish off improved battle shot and put 3 into dual world specialization. Have my offhand do a little bit more damage.
I don't know.
Really, these
Okay.
points
Okay.
are flexible.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, you don't want improved slam. You don't want improved execute.
Why is improved execute not good? I feel like improved execute's really good. What makes it not good? It feels like because it's good. Like, I don't know. I can't see it not being good. Can't execute in defensive stance. Just go to battle stance. Like, I mean, just go to battle stance. It's simple. Yeah, just go berserker stance. Infinite rage. Yeah, you just go berserker stance.
You don't want.
Then you
that.
die.
You don't want that.
No,
So
you're not
there's
gonna
really
die.
not many points.
You'd be fine.
Many places to put the points. I like putting.
You'd
them
be fine,
personally,
dude.
But that's not mandatory.
Okay.
Next up, we have Flurry. This is mandatory. You get that, and you get Bloodthirst. Sorry. So there's your Fury tree. 31 points. Next, we're gonna move on to the Prot tree. We have
Alright.
defense up to 10, and then we have the shield specialization, which increases your chance to block by 5, and 100% chance to generate 1 rage when a block occurs.
Okay.
Even though you won't be using a shield, I'd say more often than not, you're not using a shield with this build for most bosses. However, when you do need to put on a shield, which sometimes, even if you're dual wielding a boss that you normally wouldn't put on a shield, sometimes you might feel like, the raid damage is too much, or,
Wait.
one of the things with this build is that you need to be able to put on a shield on the fly. You need to be able to equip your shield quickly when you feel like you need it. And so, in some fights, you still wear a shield always. Like if you're tanking like Lotheb or Saffron, for example, next, like you're gonna have a shield on regardless.
Fuck, man.
So I like this over the defense.
What?
Defense skill.
What?
There's been a myth. I wouldn't call it a myth, but for a long time, 440 defense is the magic number. Which means you need 140 defense from gear. And
That's a lot. I don't have that.
To be uncredible. People are starting to realize that that's not so important anymore. So, and to proc and rage, for example, you want to get crit. So, this is almost, I wouldn't call it a bad talent, but you almost don't want like super high defense, because getting crit's not a bad thing. You get more rage when you get crit, and you get rage prots.
So you
So
want?
I don't really
want
love
to
this
sit
talent
down
for this
to
build.
get crit.
I choose to skip it. I go for shield spec instead.
Okay.
Next up, we have improved blood rage. You need that to get last
Okay.
stand, and that's just a nice talent in general.
Obvious decision there.
Iron Wool sucks for PvE, so we're gonna put 3
Okay.
points into toughness, 6% more armor.
Now he's
not bad.
obviously gonna get the shield block.
Next
one.
up, 1 point improved shield block.
Duh.
Every Prot warrior should be familiar with this already.
Yes.
Obviously, we want 5 points in defiance,
Right.
1 last stand. Now we have 3 talent points left over. Some
Okay.
people like improved revenge. It's nice for 5-mans. It supposedly the stun generates even additional threat. I read somewhere that might not actually be true, but improved revenge can be a nice talent. Even certain trash in raids, and for example, like on Razor Gore or Gothic,
I could maybe use that.
boss fights that have
Improved
stunnable
revenge
mobs
could be really
involved.
good.
It's not a bad talent.
This
I
actually
never
could
really
be
get
really
it,
good.
but I used to think it was useless. My mind has changed to where I do see some benefit in it, but
Okay.
I still don't really mess with it. You can if you want. These last 3 points are pretty optional. You could get improved heroic strike. You could get. I tend to get Sunder armor. You could get improved taunt. A few of these points are flexible, like I've said. This tree that you see right here. This isn't the. You
Sunder
don't have
armor.
to get all these points exactly. A few of the points are flexible.
Okay. All right.
As I've talked about. So, play with it. Play around with it. But this is the build I run for my Fury Prot build. So how does this build compare to a deep Prot build, you might be wondering? Well, I'll start off by saying that this Fury Prot build isn't really meant for beginners. Like if you're new to tanking, if your guild isn't, like if you're in a casual guild where
Look at this guy. He's got
DPS
Thunder
isn't
Fury.
just constantly pushing his limits, or
Look at all those
if they're okay with
buffs.
waiting a few seconds for starting DPS on a boss, then deep Prot is just fine. You can go ahead and stay Prot. You don't really have to worry about speccing Fury Prot.
Okay.
Also keep in mind that Fury Prot does have a stricter gear requirement. You will typically be wearing gear that's more DPS oriented, more threat oriented.
Look at that gear, dude. The fucking Lionheart helm. Look at this gear, dude. Look at this fucking gear, dude. I mean, like, where's my gear like that? He's got Might I love how he just equips Might though. Like, okay, all right, whatever. Yeah, sure. I guess I'll put this on. He's got 10,000 health. He's got 10,000 health. That's more than me. And I'm actually supposed to be a tank.
Less mitigation stats. Combine that with not wearing a shield, and you'll be taking a lot more damage. So if you don't have good healers able to keep you up and know when to heal you, then you're better off running.
Yeah, like 1900 white crit. Like, it's not even a big deal. Like, he just does that like it's nothing. He just does that. Like, and like the thing, he just does this in the video, and he acts like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess I'll just put on my Might and just hit for 2,000 almost, and white crit. I guess I might as well do this. I mean, this is so stupid, man. He's trying to get more rage. Yeah, obviously.
It'd be prot, in my opinion.
Okay.
Two of the main things that are missing from a Fury prot build that I immediately noticed.
The shield.
Were concussion blow and tactical mastery. Concussion blow, 45-second cooldown, 5-second stun.
That's really good.
It's a handy ability to have. You don't use it on bosses. Obviously, they're not stunnable, but it's nice to have during trash. But the main thing that I noticed missing from Fury prot build right away was tactical mastery.
One thing I don't like also, look at the weapons he's using. You can see right there by the weapons he's using. That's his enchants on his weapons. He's got Thunder Fury main hand, Hungering Cold offhand. Literally, Kel'Thuzad tanking weapon is his offhand. He's like, I guess I'll put this in my offhand. I guess I might as well use this. Since I'm not using the other Kel'Thuzad Might and Minithil weapon that I have right now. This is fucking ridiculous.
As soon as I didn't have it anymore, I wish I had it again. Let's put it that way. One of my favorite things to do on trash, for example, is if a mob got loosed, I would switch to Zerker stance, intercept it, switch back to defensive.
You guys see me do that all the time.
Charging it and then taunt it.
It's a high-end warrior gameplay mechanic, but I do it all the time.
One of my favorite things too. I love doing that.
Okay.
Doing that as a Fury prot build, since you don't have tactical mastery, when you switch stances, you go down to 0 rage. You lose all your rage.
Right.
So that was hard to me. That was hard for me to adapt to.
And they just kill everything,
that was
dude.
Probably the biggest thing that I had to overcome when I switched to this build.
That's
not
crazy.
Having that anymore. However, even though you don't have that ability anymore, you have Piercing Howl, which is I've gotten a lot more used to using Piercing Howl.
Okay.
If you slow the mobs that you're tanking, and if one of them gets away from you, guess what? It's moving at half speed, and it's a lot easier to react and target it and taunt it before it gets away from you. So that does kind of make up for it, honestly. In addition to that, you have Death Wish is great, Flurry's great. There's a lot of things in the Fury prot tree where
look how serious this guild is, dude. Like, they don't even look at the loot. Like, this is how I want my guild to be. They don't even look at the loot. They're like, all right, whatever. Oh, it's just Nax loot. Who cares? Whatever. Right? They don't even give a fuck, man. And it's like they're using grenades on spiders. I mean, that's crazy.
The Fury tree specifically, where you'll lose threat less often.
It's a speedrunner guild? I know that. They already have all the gear? I see that.
The gear you're wearing is more threat oriented, so you won't really need to, mobs aren't going to be getting away from you as much, so the need to switch stances and charge them is, you don't have to do that as much. But, yeah, and I'll go ahead and, I'm just going to go ahead and leave it for that for now. Go ahead and leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Leave a comment, ask me any questions that you may have about this build that I may have left out of the video.
Okay, all right.
Peace.
This is the unimportance of wearing a shield while tanking. Like, man, it's like somebody made these videos just to get me killed.
This video is going to be a follow-up to my dual wield Fury tanking.
See, I watched this one, I think, a long time ago.
This video, that video has already gotten 25,000 views, which is
awesome
big and amazing. Thank you guys so much for checking it out.
There you go.
I didn't realize it would catch on like that.
And he's dual wielding.
A lot of the people that I've seen comment on the video have said that, oh, there's no way that you'll be able to tank without shield in Classic.
Right.
That just didn't happen back in the day, and it won't happen now.
It didn't happen back in the day.
And simply put, that's not true. Even in Classic, that shouldn't be true. And in this video, I will explain why.
Okay.
So first, what is a shield exactly? What does it do? Well, a shield does two primary things. it gives you a large chunk of armor,
Yes.
and it allows you to block attacks.
That is
What does
true.
blocking attacks mean? Well, it means that
They don't do as
every
much
time
damage.
you block an attack, you reduce the damage of the attack by a little bit. It's based on,
Yes.
and that's based on your block value.
That
I would
is
say,
true.
just for example,
Very true.
a tank that's progressing through BWL or is clear BWL probably is around 100 block value. What that means
really?
is that every time you block an attack, 100 damage will be taken off, you know, what it would have done. What blocking also does, which is...
Wait, that's it? It's 100? Wow. Well, yeah, no, I know he obviously has his FPS is low. He's a no changes kind of guy, probably. And so he's still using the computer that he used back in 2006.
I would say the most important thing about
Yeah,
having
obviously.
shield is whenever you block, dodge, parry, well, obviously when you dodge or parry, but whenever you block an attack, that attack cannot crit you and it cannot crush you.
Who gives a fuck about that? So, all right, so if blocking really only affects, listen, if blocking only affects your armor, who gives a fuck about armor, number one? Number two, it only affects the block itself, which only reduces it by 100 damage. Who cares? Who gives a fuck, dude?
Boss. Meaning that the damage from that attack will always be consistent.
Right.
So, you know, a crushing blow does 1.5 times the normal damage. A crit does twice the normal damage.
Good. That's more
Three
rage.
shields that I think a lot of people who played vanilla are familiar with are the Draconian Deflector,
That's the one I
the
have.
Aegis of the Blood God, and Elementium Reinforced Bulwark.
Very true.
So the reason I picked out these three shields as examples is because chances are, if you play the entirety of vanilla as a warrior, you might only ever go through these three shields.
I bet better
I'll
not
give
be
you an
true for
example.
me.
On the server I'm
That
playing
better
on
not
currently,
be true for me.
between entering my first raid in Molten Core and killing Kel'Thuzad, I had two of these shields and no other shield. I had the
Okay.
Draconian Deflector and I had the Bulwark, the Elementium Reinforced Bulwark.
Wait, he just equipped my hammer.
That's it. I killed Kel'Thuzad with the Bulwark and simply put, because
What
after
the
that,
fuck?
the next clear upgrade
That's
for
my
shield is
hammer.
off of Saffron, which is the second to last boss. So chances
Oh my
are, if you
God.
ever get the Bulwark, you'll have that for the whole game. And along the way, you will hopefully pick up either...
Is he
Draconian
using that to
Deflector or
AoE
Aegis
stun
of
the
Blood God.
Acolytes so they
Now,
don't cast?
if you look at these three shields, they have between about 2,100 and 2,900 armor. Now, that's a lot of
That's
armor,
smart.
so you were probably thinking, well, shit, if you take off your shield, you'll be taking a huge armor hit.
Okay,
Well, not
that's a
necessarily.
good idea.
There are various armor consumes in the game that
Right.
people, for the most part, I know me for a fact, I didn't use any of these in vanilla. I didn't bother them. I hardly used any consumes to begin with, which one of the main things about people's memories of vanilla versus now, or what things will be like in classic, is the amount of preparation people put in a raid. Back
That's
then,
a
no
big
one
pull.
really ever. I don't think I ever.
That's
got
a
world
big
buff before
fucking
raid.
pull, dude. That's a big old fucking
You know,
pull.
we didn't wait to drop our Onyxia heads
God
or
damn.
car hearts. We just, as soon as someone got them, they dropped it and got the item. We
Holy
didn't wait
shit.
for a raid to drop them like we do now. So people didn't really know about
Okay.
consumables. Like I think the first flask I used was on Patrick and Nex. I never used a flask before that. As a matter of fact, funny story.
I never used a flask in vanilla well. I never did. I didn't even use the first time I used a flask was in like fucking SSC because my guild made me use them. They were like, listen, Asmongold, it's time for you to actually fucking be useful for once. So why don't you go ahead and do that? And that says, is it gonna work for you? I think that it might.
Story.
Okay.
Real quick. Back in vanilla, I had transferred to the Kill Jaden server kind of late in Vanilla's life, but before then I was on the server Boulder Fist, and there was a guild called Guards of Honor. They, for Princess Huron and AQ40,
What the fuck,
they were
dude?
stuck
Look at
on
those
her. There's a lot of
fireballs.
guilds were back then.
Holy
so
shit.
One night they just went in and said, all 40 people in the raid are gonna flask, you know, Titans to still, you know, whatever the supreme power, whatever the class needs. All
Right.
40 people in the raid are gonna flask. And they did that and they killed Huron. And they actually, other people on the server actually started making fun of them. They got the nickname Flasks of Honor for a time being for doing that. And it's
See, that's vanilla, dude. That's it. You know this shit's true because like only somebody in vanilla WoW would meme on somebody else like, oh wow, look at this guy using consumables to kill a boss. What a fucking loser, man. What a loser. Like, no, I can guarantee you I guarantee that story's fucking true.
it's so funny for me to look back at that because these days that's
Yeah.
like expected. Like, oh,
Exactly.
you aren't showing up to raid with the flask.
You're an
for
idiot.
progression, especially, like, you know, why not Why aren't you contributing and pulling your own weight?
Right, exactly.
So back then, obviously, it was the opposite. And that's really, like, if nothing else can be said about why Classic rating will be different today than it was back then, or why private servers are different today than Vanilla was back then. If anything can be said about that,
at the game.
I think that story perfectly illustrates.
People are good at the game now.
Just the mentality shift that's changed among players, and
they're very good at the game now.
It just makes all the difference. But anyway, speaking of going back on to consumes, armor consumes specifically, I've listed 4 right here. That 3 of these are 30-minute to 1-hour buffs. The Crystal Ward, Scroll Protection 4, and the Elixir Superior Defense.
Oh.
Total, those will give you 890 armor. Now, on top of that, you have Greater Stone Shield Potion that lasts for 2 minutes. Gives you 2,000 armor for 2 minutes.
So that's like a shield.
2-minute cooldown, so you can keep it up. The Greater Stone, if you compare Greater Stone Shield Potion alone to Draconian Deflector,
what is he making fun of my shield?
There's only
now?
a 153 armor difference. Which
He's making fun of my shield.
So just that by itself, if you've ever seen a tank any boss in Molten Core BWL, with
what are you trying to say, dude? This is the best I could get, dude.
If you've ever seen that, imagine taking that off and putting on an offhand weapon, and then popping Greater Stone Shield Potion. The armor will be about the same. The only thing that will change really is that now the boss can crit and crush you more often because you don't have a shield.
Who could all this
but as far as the non-critical, non-crushing blows that you'll take, the damage will be about the same between the two if you have a shield on, or if you take the shield off and take Greater Stone Shield Potion. So, and if you watch any of my clips, most if not all of them have, when I'm dual wield tanking, I do pop a Greater Stone Shield Potion. When I'm main tanking, I carry at least 20 Greater Stone Shield pots with me every raid.
How much are these?
Great consume, I use it all the time. And
how much is it worth?
Really does more or less make up for you not having a shield. Even right now, currently on the server that I play on, all armor buffs stack. All 4 of these consumables I've listed stack.
I think that's how it is in Classic too. I'm pretty sure that's how it is.
That stacks as well. Will that be like that in Classic?
This shit's
I think
expensive,
so. I can't say for sure. However, even if armor effects don't stack in Classic and you just pop a Greater Stone Shield Potion, that alone will make up for not having a shield for the most part. Even Stone Shield versus Elementium, it's 1,000 armor difference. Which is, it's not nothing, but that will not be the difference between being able to survive a boss's hit consistently and just getting one shot from 100 to 0. Like, in other words, the healers, if they
time their
heals correctly, they'll still be able to heal you.
I think I'm gonna do it.
Now, there are times where having shield is recommended. For example, when AoE tanking, when you're tanking several different mobs, you always want to have a shield on, because that block value that I mentioned earlier, let's say you have 100 block value. If a boss is hitting you for 2,000 damage, that 100 block value is doesn't really matter too much.
Yeah, it's 10%.
Helps a little bit, but it's usually not the difference between life and death. However, if you're tanking 20 different mobs,
this just makes
sense. For example, in the suppression room, if you're tanking 20 different mobs that all hit you for
that will never happen because I'll lose aggro.
And if you block their attacks, then guess what? They're hitting you for 0. And all of a sudden, you can tank, several different mobs without taking an unreasonable amount of damage. Whereas if you were to take off your shield in that situation, the damage difference would be night and day. Suddenly, if you ever want to try it while tanking, you don't even have to take off your shield. Just turn your back to the mob to where you can't block. If you're tanking, 10 different mobs at once, and you're doing fine, go ahead and turn your back to the mob and see what happens. You'll be taking a lot more damage all of a sudden, which would be the same effect if you were to dual wield tank in that situation.
Not really.
So
not
a good idea to dual wield tank when you're tanking. I'm talking several different mobs. You can get away with like 2 or 3. But I would say more than that,
there's no way,
because the damage that you take will be reduced significantly. In addition, for bosses, like I mentioned earlier, the main reason to use a shield is to become immune to critical and crushing blows. As long as you block, you cannot be crit or crushed. Now, I have a macro I have 2 macros that switches me from dual wield back to shield. My R key is bound to. I have a macro to where I go into defensive stance.
I have this too.
I put on a shield, and I block with the shield. Now, for example, when tanking a boss,
you can still dodge and
where
parry.
it's true that putting on a shield will trigger the global cooldown for all of your abilities. Shield block has no global cooldown. So
let's watch how he handles this
switch
boss.
Defensive stance, put on a shield, use shield block. You can bind all that in one macro. Hit the button, usually a few times just to make sure.
He's using Nightfall.
And all of that will happen.
Shit,
as fast as your latency is and your action time. In other words, there's no game mechanics that's stopping you from immediately putting on a shield and immediately hitting shield block, therefore preventing any crit or crushing blow. Now,
Yes, of
one
course.
of the things that makes this build
Very true.
or this method of tanking more advanced is that you have to be aware of basically when to put on a shield and when not to. I'll give you an example. If a boss is attacking me, and you know I'm always keeping an eye on my health while I'm tanking. That's just one of the things that you have to micromanage.
Nah.
If a boss is attacking me,
I don't know about that.
I know that if he doesn't crit or crush me with a shield on, I know he does about 2,000 damage. Say this particular boss, I know he's going to hit me for 2,000 damage when I have a shield
Not
on,
really.
when I'm using shield block. Well, let's say I'm dual wield tanking, and all of a sudden the boss hits me. I look at my health. I have about 3,000 health. Now that's a little scary, you know. So naturally, I put on a shield and I hit shield block. Bosses typically have between a 2.0 and 2.5 second swing timer. In other words, when they're not using any special abilities like Mortal Strike or anything like that, they're gonna swing at you between every 2 seconds to 2.5 seconds. So knowing that, let's say I'm fighting a boss that has a swing timer of 2 seconds. I'm at 3,000 health. He just hit me and took me down to 3,000. Now, what that tells me is, oh shit, I need to put on a shield and hit shield block. I do that. He swings at me again, assuming it actually hits me and I don't dodge or parry, which happens fairly
And
often.
you block it with the shield block because it's off the
He'll hit me for
GCD.
2,000. And then another 2 seconds later passes, he'll hit me for 2,000 again. Well, that would kill me
that's
if
what
I
makes
didn't
sense.
get any heals in that time. However, that window between me going for 3,000 health to dying in that case would be about 5 seconds. And 5 seconds is more than enough time for healers.
That's right. They should have fucking healed you. You die in 5 seconds. They should have healed you.
Especially if you make it a point to them and say, hey,
Let them know.
I'm going to be dual wield tanking on this boss for threat because I feel like it's necessary. So just please be aware of that. Sometimes healers, some healers, if they see the tank not take damage for several seconds, they'll just kind of tune out and not pay attention.
My healers always do this. Like I don't know what it is about them, but like anytime, like I feel like they're always tuning out. Like sometimes when I do 5-man, it's like they're tuning out, man. I go to 0 health, man, or I go to like 60 health, and they're like, oh, that's right. Oh, that's right.
Maybe start healing other people. However, if you make them aware of what you're doing and communicate with them, then and just say, hey, keep an eye on me at all times. Constantly be queuing a heal. If I'm at full health and you want to cancel to save mana, that's fine. But constantly be queuing a heal on me to be sure to top me off. If you have 3 or 4 healers on you at least that are following those directions, then you can safely dual wield tank as pretty much any boss, as long as you're able to put on a shield at the right time. That being said, there's also some bosses that you just don't want to really ever dual wield tank.
Why not?
Nax, for example, Saffron and Lotheb are 2 bosses where there's no reason to dual wield tank. For Lotheb, there's no reason on that fight, simply put, there's no reason for the tank to not wear full mitigation gear and a shield at all times. You want to be taking as little damage as possible whenever possible.
Well, what the
fuck? How the fight works. And threat is also not an issue on that fight, so there's no reason to put on threat gear, really.
All right.
For Saffron, he hits fairly hard. He doesn't hit super hard, but he hits fairly hard. But
everybody's got
in addition to hitting the tank fairly hard,
not gonna pull threat.
The entire raid is taking 600 frost damage every second. Throughout the entire fight.
Not gonna pull threat.
So as you can probably imagine, that's a very healing intensive fight.
Right.
In addition to that, because the entire raid has to wear a decent amount of frost resist gear just to be able to survive.
Okay.
They're not doing as much damage, therefore threat is not as big of an issue.
That makes sense.
So for Saffron, you always wear a shield for that fight just because of the incoming damage and the fact that you really won't need the extra threat from dual wielding. Chromagus and Black Wingler is another example. Because of people LOSing in that fight doing breaths, there is often not a need for extra threat on that fight, so you can play it. That's another fight.
You're not maximizing your damage to begin.
Those are just a few examples
that makes sense.
When to keep a shield on all times, but
that makes a lot
really
of sense.
The part of the challenge and, in my opinion, part of the fun of playing a dual wield Fury tank is to know when you have to put on a shield.
Look at those fireballs, dude.
It's a very engaging spec. There's a lot to do, and actually you also see some pretty big numbers as well. So it's fun being able to do some damage while tanking as well. And I think everyone, once they have the gear, they should at least try it at some point.
Yo, I've got
anyway,
the gear,
that's
dude.
Gonna wrap it up for now. Go ahead.
I've got the fucking gear, dude.
And keep an eye out for my next video. Peace.
Yo, like, let's fucking do it, man. Like, dude, I've got the gear 100%, man. 100%. There's this other one. When tanks can spec Fury and Prot in Classic WoW. I don't know what. Let's try. Let's just do it. Is it time I just do it? Why I just say fuck it and I do it? I just do it.